Hello, thank you for having me on From the Woods today. My name is Kaela Walton-Sather, and I work for the Cumberland River Compact, a watershed nonprofit based in Nashville, Tennessee. I'll be talking about our Mineland Reforestation program and how landowners can benefit from it. I'll cover a little background on the compact and how our program works and what kind of projects we're looking for. As I said, we're a nonprofit organization. We work to advance clean and abundant water in the Cumberland River Basin. Our mission statement is to improve the health and enjoyment of the Cumberland River and its tributaries through education, action, and collaboration. We were founded over 25 years ago, and we seek to address root causes of water pollution by giving people the tools and information they need to be smart, impactful stewards of their watershed. We know that clean water is something in everyone's best interest, so we work with all kinds of people, government, and businesses to achieve this goal we all share. We work on the root problems of water pollution, both urban and rural, and through that we work to protect native habitats, restore biodiversity, and provide clean water for all. Our people-centric approach guides how we care for, restore, and protect this region for future generations. We support individuals and communities in their conservation efforts and empower them to care for their land and water. We believe in the power of action. Our projects are intended to serve as an example of what is possible, and we hope they inspire individuals and communities in their conservation efforts. We welcome diversity of thought, innovation, and participation from stakeholders across the Cumberland River Basin. Our goal is to give people the tools to be smart, impactful stewards of their watershed and to constructively partner with governments, communities, and other organizations to address the most pressing water and environmental issues in our region. This is a map of the area that we serve. The Cumberland River Basin is 18,000 square miles and holds 28,000 miles of streams and rivers. Covering 1/3 in Kentucky and 2/3 in Tennessee, this area is home to 3 million people and thousands of species. It is one of the most biodiverse regions in the world. When a raindrop falls in this region, it eventually makes its way to the Cumberland River. Protecting and restoring creeks and streams and rivers in the basin is crucial to providing clean drinking water and thriving habitats for plants and animals and people. We have 4 divisions to address water pollution issues. Our Urban Waters Division works within cities, mainly Nashville, to implement tree planting and depave initiatives. Our education team delivers school programs and works with students and teachers alike. And we have a stream restoration team that does both large and small-scale stream restoration work, like revamping degraded streams and dam removals. And then the Working Lands Division, which is the team that I run. The Working Lands Division works to increase conservation and water quality on working lands, or lands that we derive income from. In our case, that's farming and land that was formerly mined for coal. Coal mining, heavy machinery, and inadequate restoration efforts have left large swaths of land that are nearly barren or covered in invasive species and stunted trees that fail to thrive in the compacted soil. Our Mineland Reforestation program works with private landowners to reforest land that has been improperly restored or not at all after mining activities have ceased. We work with landowners in Kentucky and Tennessee to restore native forests on their properties and have planted over 74,000 seedlings on previously mined lands. Our approach improves water quality, reduces erosion, supports wildlife habitat, and can reduce flooding. We got into this work because we saw a vacancy in the small to medium scale land projects. There are really big names out there like Green Forest Work who are restoring thousands of acres of land, but there wasn't a lot of options for private landowners who maybe only have a couple hundred acres or less and want to bring back a native forest. At least not in our region, and that's how we started developing our program to fill that middle place void. The goal of our program is to restore native forests in southern Appalachia to improve soil health and water absorption, mitigate flooding, improve habitat for wildlife, and enhance water quality downstream from the previously mined sites. We are able to do this work through grants and private foundations. We are mainly funded through National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, the Chubb Charitable Foundation, Google, and Suntory Global Spirits. When we started this program, we worked with ARI, the Appalachian Regional Reforestation Initiative, to learn and adopt the forestry reclamation approach. The forestry reclamation approach, or FRA, is a proven method for restoring coal-mined lands back into healthy, productive forests under the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act, or SMCRA for short. Developed through years of research and field experience, the FRA can provide a cost-effective way for mine operators to meet reclamation standards while also creating long-term environmental and economic benefits. The process focuses on rebuilding a suitable rooting medium, minimizing soil compaction, planting compatible ground covers, and establishing a mix of early successional and high-value native tree species. In our projects, this involves removing invasive vegetation through a process called scalping, then loosening compacted soils through cross-ripping, and planting diverse native trees and shrubs to jumpstart forest recovery. When implemented correctly, the FRA restores the land's natural productivity, enhances water quality and wildlife habitat, and accelerates the return of native forests through natural succession, ultimately transforming degraded mine lands into thriving, self-sustaining ecosystems. Here's a clip from one of our recent sites that was taken by our project partner, Link Elmore, with the Nature Conservancy. You can see here the nice cross rips that are on an 8-foot by 8-foot spacing. And here is the Cat D9 dozer ripping that first pass on the other hillside. Once completed, that pass, he will work from the top back portion of the site and pull perpendicular rips and finish at the staging site so as not to track over the ground that has been decompacted. The ripper shank pulled behind the dozer breaks up the compacted soil down to 4 feet from the surface. We will then come in and plant at the intersection of those rips, and usually that works out to be about 700 stems per acre, unless we're adjusting for a certain site goal. These are the species that we largely plant. We aim to plant 14 to 17 native species on each site, and we'll select an assortment from this list based on the nursery availability, site conditions, topography, and any targeted wildlife species we're aiming to create habitat for. This is a breakdown of the composition of how we plant those species on each site. Our funding partner, Suntory Global Spirits, is part of the White Oak Initiative and has helped shape how we determine this composition. We try to have 40 to 50, even sometimes 60% white oak and 15% shortleaf pine. Sometimes we'll use white pine if there's a shortage on shortleaf pine. And then we have another 20% of various oaks and hickories, and the remaining 15% is to help increase diversity, and we'll include some shrub species for wildlife. Here's some of the main partners and organizations we have worked with that have helped make this work possible. We have been fortunate to receive guidance and in-kind support from OSMRE, GFW, RE, and the University of Tennessee. The Nature Conservancy and state agencies like the Department of Forestry, TDEC, and TWRA have been instrumental in connecting us with landowners and implementing projects. The mentorship and guidance from working with these folks has really helped shape our program and grow our understanding. Mountain Ridge have been expert operators and has had a lot of experience working on sites like these, and is just a small business out of Kentucky. Williams Forestry, who we have often contracted to plant our sites, has been a huge support in sourcing seedlings and providing advice on which species to use and where. We opt to use the local labor force as much as possible. So, how is this all coming together for us? Well, here is the first site that we completed in 2024. This project was in partnership with the Nature Conservancy as part of the Cumberland Forest Project. It was a 42-acre site in East Tennessee that had compacted soil, stunted trees, and was getting dominated by invasives like autumn olive, royal paulownia, and tree of heaven. Going left to right in these pictures, you can see the first one. This is the site after it had been ripped. It was being planted by the tree planters at 700 stems per acre. We planted close to 30,000 seedlings on this site. And this middle picture you see is 3 months after that planting. You can see there are more forbs and herbaceous plants coming up. We had estimated there's about 70% ground cover at this point, which is already working to improve drainage and reduce erosion. And the far right picture is 5 months after planting. There was very little bare ground at this point, and we did a seedling survival survey and found 81% survivorship from the planted seedlings. Their FRA method aims to have about 70%, so we were very happy with these results. During the survey, we also found natural regeneration of white oak and pine and black locust, as well as an increase in diversity of native plants that were not planted, like clover, common ragweed, elderberry, goldenrod, partridge pea, silver maple, various asters, and yarrow, rather than invasives coming back in. So overall, this first project was a huge success for us. Here, these are some photos from our first site. This is the site beforehand when we were assessing the vegetation and the project perimeter. And this is the equipment that's on the site. You can see the large dozers that we used to complete the earthworks. This is the site after it had been ripped. You can see all the rough and loose texture on the site. Makes for a great rooting medium. Here's just another shot of the after ripping. And this is the planting crew prepping the seedlings before they go in the ground. We will mix the bundles so that the species are evenly dispersed throughout the site. Here's the site 3 months after it was planted, and you can see these newly growing seedlings, and you can see that the herbaceous ground cover is coming in nicely. In the spring of 2024, as part of the American Society for Reclamation Science, we had government agencies, professors, grad students, and other nonprofits tour our site to take a look at the work that we had been completing. And this is what you're seeing here in the pictures, that we were gathered on our site and checking out the vegetation and how the trees were growing, and all the feedback we got on our first project was very positive. And then this is the site. After the first growing season, you can see that all that bare ground that you saw in those post-ripping photos is now covered with vegetation, and our trees are growing in there. After each project, we will do a follow-up survey after the first growing season to check on the seedlings and make sure the site is progressing as we expect it to. So here you can see us, we are conducting a survivability survey, and we're using a fixed circular plot to count stem density and check on the trees that were planted, as well as to capture any natural regeneration that has happened since our reforestation work. Since then, we have been ramping up our program, aiming for more acreage each year, and to date we have planted over 74,000 seedlings on 122 acres in 2 years. This year, we just started our largest project to date of 150 acres in Letcher County, Kentucky. In partnership with Green Forest Work, we will see over 100,000 seedlings planted there in early 2026. Here's the project that we have most recently started in Letcher County, Kentucky. These are some before shots of the site. You can see that there's very little going on, very little growth, but you can see the adjacent forest. That's what should be growing on that land and currently isn't. This is just another before photo. You can see the trees are fairly spaced out and you don't really have any kind of canopy closure or any resemblance of a forest here at all. This bare ground that you're seeing, this has been scalped, so we have used a dozer to push away any of the invasive vegetation or, what you saw in that previous photo that there was not much vegetation growing at all. And it gets pushed into windrows. This is another angle of the scalping work. So you can see that the blade in front of the dozer pushes that vegetation into those windrows along the edge of the site. Those are left on site to decompose and add organic matter into the soil. Here you can see the dozer in action, pushing that material into those windrows. This helps to remove that top layer of soil that will carry the invasive seed bank in it. And so this is how we are able to remove invasive species off of the landscape and give the native ones a better chance. The projects we're seeking to take on have a few requirements. We are focusing on working with private landowners located in eastern Kentucky and Tennessee. Thanks to our NIFWIF funding, we have the flexibility to expand beyond the Cumberland River Basin and include projects within the Cumberland Plateau region as well. So just to be more clear, here's a look at our service area that we work on these projects in. This is a map of Tennessee and Kentucky with the counties outlined. So if you recognize your county there, it might help give you a point of reference. But that darker green color, our priority 1 area, that is the Cumberland River Basin. And then the lighter green area is our priority 2 area, and that includes the Cumberland Plateau and the southern Appalachian part of Tennessee and Kentucky. So in those areas, we are eligible for our reforestation work. But if you find yourself kind of on that eastern edge or on the other side of the boundary of those priority areas, your property may still be eligible for this kind of work, and is always worth it to reach out and find out more from us. We work on bond release surface mines that were mined after 1977 or after the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act came into effect, where reforestation is likely to occur in a reasonable time frame without intervention. This can look like barren land with little to no ground cover, a moonscape type, or be vegetated but dominated by invasives and stunted trees. By reestablishing native forests, these projects improve water quality and increase water infiltration by reducing runoff and sedimentation into nearby streams. And they can also help reduce flooding events by mitigating water that was previously running off. Reforested sites also support biodiversity, providing essential habitat for wildlife, birds, and pollinators. Connecting fragmented landscapes can introduce important species like bobwhite quail back onto your land. Importantly, participation in the program places no constraints on landowners or their property deeds, allowing them to enhance the health and productivity of their land while maintaining full ownership and flexibility for future use. If this sounds like your property or you're interested in the benefits of reforestation, please reach out. I want to thank you for listening to me today. Please keep in touch. If you want to stay up to date with what the Compact is working on, you can follow us on Instagram at CR Compact or on Facebook at the Cumberland River Compact. If you have any questions or you're interested in reforesting your land, please reach out to our email or check out our website, cumberlandrivercompact.org.